The digital economy has developed to a point where the fundamentals of this market are very much starting to mature and mirror the fundamentals of the traditional economy, where creating value involves the procurement of goods and services as input to the creation of other goods and services that are then procured by others for either consumption or to use as an input to create other goods and services, and so the cycle continues. We have come to a point where leveraging opportunities in the digital economy doesn't necessarily mean that every component of tech enablement has to involve long development periods of either experience design or the writing of lines upon lines of code for every small component. The same way one doesn't have to bake bricks from scratch to build a house, one doesn't necessarily have to write code or hire developers to develop a website or payment platform, for example. These components come out of the box where one could just sign up for a few subscriptions on a few platforms and then boom, they've got a digital platform-based business. No technical skills required, just a bit of technical savvy, decent operational aptitude, and strong business acumen. The only drawback here is that someone else owns your business's currency, i.e., your data, which, depending on the ethics of the entity you are dealing with, you may unwittingly be signing yourself up to a bad marriage. But we'll talk about that at length in another series. That being said, there's still great value in using others' technical expertise to leverage digital economy opportunities without paying through the nose, which brings us to the beginning of this series, where we will explore an implementation-ready model to leverage API marketplaces to accelerate innovative digital platform venturing. As we've said before, we are all about leveraging opportunities. So the angle here is how to go about using digital enablement to create business value through developing new revenue models and achieving sustainable profitability, focusing particularly on API marketplaces as innovation execution enablers. We'll start with going through the fundamentals of APIs. What are they, what do they do, and where do they exist? Build on that with exploring the fundamentals of API marketplaces and how they work. We'll then get into the nitty-gritties of strategically leveraging API marketplaces to build innovation execution capability for the corporation and the digital entrepreneur alike. We'll explore the operational framework required to execute on the strategic model at a detailed level. Ending off with a detailed commercial business case discussing facts and figures required to make this model work. Let's get going. So what is an API? Well, in simple terms, they are pieces of software that allow other pieces of software to talk to each other. We will unpack this statement in more fundamental terms where it will be clear how incredibly significant the functionality of enabling other pieces of software to talk to each other is. There are different types of APIs. We'll admit it gets a bit muddy theorizing between what is an actual API, what is a type of an API, what is synonymous with an API, etc. Theorizing has never built a sustainable business, however, so we'll conceptualize accurately enough to lay the foundation for knowledge understanding required to get us to the point where we can actually start executing. The first type of API we'll cover is an application. which in simple terms is a piece of software that performs a specific task. We all have a number of them on our mobile devices with various usability and complexity, depending on whether you're looking at it from a user or capability building perspective. We will soon use a case study to decipher between when an application is fundamentally an app as we know it, as well as when it plays the role of an API. We move on to operating systems. These are pieces of software that drive the hardware components of a device, say a mobile device for example, and provides interfaces between the hardware and other hardware and software components of the device. It is the language through which a specific hardware design can communicate with software pieces of different designs. It determines the rules and conditions that these other pieces of software should meet in order to work on devices that work in a particular way as specified by the operating system. Microservices are similar to apps in practical terms. However, from a technology fundamentals perspective, the term has more to do with the architecture design of a particular complex piece of software that performs a number of tasks. How these tasks are designed and deployed is the fundamental difference that distinguishes microservices from other large pieces of software, such as apps. So instead of one big piece of software that drives a car, for example, you have a collection of smaller pieces of software that perform different tasks. One turns the steering wheel, one applies acceleration, one applies brakes, one drives an object sensor that signals if there's a chance of collision, etc. In this type of setup, the pieces of software do not only have to live and function within the car driving complex application, they can be deployed outside of this application to do similar tasks elsewhere. Next, we deal with databases, which are effectively digital storage cabinets. They store data being generated by pieces of software during use. The data could either be user-generated, generated by the system in which the piece of software performing different tasks resides, or generated by the pieces of software themselves as the user engages the service provided by the piece of software. There is a predefined way in which the information is organized and stored. The manner in which the information is accessed is predefined as well. The information doesn't necessarily have to reside where the piece of software resides or within the system in which the different pieces of software reside. It can be pushed somewhere external to the system or device for storage, as it is generated through use and engagement. The data can be used by other pieces of software outside of the device or system where these pieces of software reside. The piece of software that operates the hardware of your home router monitors the battery level of your router, generates that data, and stores it somewhere. The management portal of your home router that you access via a website to monitor data usage or to manage your password can access this information and tell you your battery level as you attempt to come up with a password that your neighbor's online gaming champ of a daughter can't guess. Okay, so now we've covered the various forms and shapes that APIs can take. Now let's explore a case study through which we can get to really understand how the various forms of APIs actually work. So you want to start a digital platform business and you've settled on an online dating platform where lonely hearts or perhaps lonely bodies with deep pockets can mingle and meet someone that desires the same type of companion they desire. The user could be looking for a partner or multiple partners for whatever romantic imperatives they need to address. The business model is as detailed. And then a couple of operational considerations we need to be able to explore the case study.